EAGLES, Eagles.
Welcome in, everybody, to a Wednesday edition of Birds 365 here on JAKIB Sports, preparing now and getting closer to that divisional round matchup, Eagles versus Rams. It's a 3 p.m. Sunday game, everybody. Johnny Mack, how you doing on this Wednesday morning as we inch closer to divisional round weekend, John?
Yeah, getting closer. Practice starts today. Eagles will be practicing at Lincoln Financial Field again all week, pretty much. They typically don't make that decision every day, but it's been so cold, the practice fields remain frozen, so they're going to be over at Lincoln Financial Field again for the entire week. It could always change, but that's the way it looks right now. And I don't think cold is a bad thing this time of year, especially when you're facing the Los Angeles Rams, who are not used to playing in that type of weather.
Yeah, no doubt, John. Looks like we might have some rain, some cold, some wind. I don't know. Who knows how it will play out on game day, but it does not look like a game that the Los Angeles Rams typically thrive in. Now, I'm not going to write them off because of it, but weather, I think, could be a factor in this one, John.
Yeah, and I think it's I think it's definitely a big advantage for the Eagles. Will be not necessarily the same last week with Green Bay, a team that was used to playing. Would have been the same with Minnesota, so I don't think it mattered because the Vikings are an indoor team. So,
right. And Detroit, they're all indoor teams.
Yeah, but unfortunately, Detroit's not coming here.
Yeah, right.
It would have been, I picked the Eagles over Detroit if the game was here. So that's why we're jumping ahead, but I can afford to do that. The Eagles can't, but I do expect it to be Detroit and Philadelphia in the NFC Championship game. I'm not hiding that fact. And, I'm going to pick Detroit. And if it were here, I'd pick Philadelphia. So that's how big that number one seed is.
Are you tipping your hand early on it?
I'm tipping it way early. I'm tipping this week. I'm tipping
wait a second.
NFC Championship game.
Wait a second.
I'm not changing, so
What if the Commanders, lose on a field goal in a 17-14 game, and they slow down that Detroit offense and put a blueprint up on what the Birds do, and the Eagles go 38-7 versus the Rams and destroy them? You're still taking the Lions in that game?
Yeah. What if Scarlett Johansson called me all those many years ago? It's not going to happen. So, I don't, but not that Washington can't win. They're an NFL team, but if they probably win, it's going to be, more like 34-31. I think the Lions are the best team, so I'm not wavering on that. So, why beat around the bush?
They are a special group. They're a damn good offense. John, real quick, one question before we get into some of the Eagles news from yesterday, and we're going to get into that, but just came to top of mind because of what you said. Who do you think's the better unit? All right, and I say unit, I mean one side of the ball left in the playoffs. Eagles defense or Lions offense?
Lions offense.
Do you think Lions offense is better as the one offense than the Eagles defense is as the number one defense?
Lions offense is one of the best offenses I've ever seen all time. And a lot of it's just legislation. You can't be, the old school fearsome foursome. Since we're the Rams, you can't be the old school purple people eaters. You can't be, those dominant defense. You're not allowed. So, part of it is taken care of by the rules of the game, the legislation of the game. You're not allowed. The Eagles defense is tremendous for a modern defense. We've talked about it all the time. Certainly the most surprising unit, probably in the entire NFL, as far as overachieving from where they were expected to be. Everybody expected the Lions offense to be good. And they are, but the rules take care of that question. The Eagles are not even permitted, nor is any defense allowed to be the better unit than the best offense in any particular year.
Right, because, I got you. I understand what you're saying there. Good stuff, Johnny Mac. Let's move into some of the Eagles news that came down yesterday. All right, bunch of roster moves, John, and I'll ask you to break them down for me, and then we'll continue to dive into the game. I want to thank everybody for being here this morning. Our great crowd, as always. Appreciate all you guys in the chat. Philly Don and Brandon Lewis, Daz, Joe Whip. What's up, Joe? Callie Baby, Fly Parks, Brian Fleming's in here, Niall Christian, Izzy B, and Chan. What's up, everybody? Anybody I missed? I didn't mean to miss you, but I appreciate you for being here. Don't forget to hit that like button for us, as it's one of the best things you can do to help the show grow. John, we've been having a big week, man. A lot of viewers here on Birds 365, so big thanks to everybody. John, roster moves yesterday, all right? Nakobe Dean obviously placed on injured reserve. Paris Campbell to the active roster. Nick Morrow and Elijah Cook.
Nick Morrow's back.
I like
Nick Morrow.
People on X like mad about Nick Morrow. I'm like, dude, you lost a linebacker. He's not going to be out there starting. He's a guy who knows the system. He was a confident.
I think it's a good.
Yeah, I thought it was a good back of roster move. I didn't see the outrage, John, and I saw a little
I
bit
never
of it.
saw the outrage.
Oh, I was getting it on my X.
Oh, no, I believe it.
Yeah.
I never understood why Eagles fans disliked Nick Morrow. I thought he actually did okay when he was here. Had some good games. Problem with Nick is when he played, he had some really good games. Remember the 3-sack game? And then when he played well, he played really well. And when he played poorly, he played really poorly. There was no consistency from week to week. But I think overall the Eagles have had far worse linebackers than Nick Morrow over the years as they've struggled to do things at that particular position until this year. So I thought, it's as good as you mentioned. He wasn't here with Vic, but same system, similar system. So he knows the system. Yeah, that's the best you can do. Again, it's January. We talked about that yesterday. Somebody brought up Quan Alexander in the chat. It's like, you don't want to bring in a guy who has no history with your not going to be able to help. Sometimes you have to. I brought up what happened to Miami with Vic last year with their edge rushers. They just got hurt. They had to bring people in off the street, and it didn't end well.
Yeah, I mean, people are saying, he didn't play well last year. Well, this is a different role than he was last year. He was
your
only
starter.
linebacker. Yeah, he was your only linebacker last year, which was a joke in and of its own right. But we're not in that position anymore. We needed a depth guy.
He's on the practice squad. He's at depth. Right. He'll probably get elevated.
Yeah.
Because he's probably more ready to help you than Dallas Gant. And we'll see how that shakes out.
Any other moves, John, yesterday? I think Joseph Nada was released. Was he released?
Yeah, Joseph Nada was released from the practice squad. They brought in Elijah Cooks, who was in Jacksonville. That's just one of those, all right. Maybe you can get a little bit better, get a head start on the offseason whenever it ends. Get him to a futures deal. Maybe he's got a little bit more upside. Paris Campbell, getting elevated. The Eagles like him. Obviously, there's some concern with the injury to AJ, so you want the depth there. And the good thing about the playoffs is the elevation clock resets. So you saw that last week.
Yeah. Right.
And you don't have to worry about not having elevations left, so they can manipulate it a little bit easier. So you can elevate if they want to elevate Kari Blossom game again. To give you that fullback look or what they did, or Nick Morrow, I would assume would be up this week, but we'll see. Probably depends more on special teams. If they like what Dallas was doing on Dallas Gant, I'm talking about, for people that don't know, is practice squad linebacker. They elevated him a couple times. If they like what he did, maybe they'll do it again. But Nick Morrow obviously has a ton more experience and he's been playing on special teams this year with Buffalo, so maybe they lean towards Nick Morrow, but you don't have to worry about that practice squad stuff in the playoffs about running out of elevation. So they can manipulate it a little easier.
Good stuff there, Johnny Mac. Any other new? The coordinators spoke yesterday, and I thought Vic Fangio said some good thing. Real quick before we turn into that, no other roster moves we missed though, right? That's all the manipulation that they did yesterday.
No, that's everything. Campbell to the 53-man, Morrow signed to the practice squad, Elijah Cooks, who's a wide receiver, to the practice squad, Joseph Nada released from the practice squad, and Nakobe Dean to IR. Obviously, his season is over, unfortunately. Had a great season, breakout season. And boy, you talk about bad timing late in the season, that type of injury. And this would have been the year the Eagles would have looked to extend him.
Yeah.
And now, you got to wait and see. Yeah, that's a very serious injury.
Yeah, no doubt about it. That could definitely alter. I saw a couple doctors breaking it down on social media, John. I think they were real doctors, unless I got duped. I'm pretty good at not getting duped on social media, but yeah, break it down. That's a tough injury to come back from. So we will see how Nakobe Dean progresses. Definitely failing for him. That tough injury at a tough time of the year. John, let's get into the coordinators who spoke yesterday. John, yesterday on the show, we talked about replacing Nakobe Dean. Obviously, you're going to have to replace him here in the postseason. And we talked about Oren Burks. And I don't want to say we brushed Jeremiah Trotter Jr. aside. We just both agreed and said that this was not the time to get a rookie involved. Well, Vic Fangio, I don't know, John. Based on what he said, I'm feeling like Jeremiah Trotter Jr. could be getting a little bit of a shot this weekend. Maybe not a full-time starting role, but definitely a chance to get on the field. Any takeaways from what those coordinators said yesterday?
Yeah, I said it was the Dallas game. And, when Nakobe was out, for the people that were listening, when Nakobe was out with an abdomen injury for the Dallas game, Oren started and they rotated Trotter in. And I said, that's what's going to happen this time. That's what's going to happen this time. And, I know people hear what they want to hear, but they didn't hear the context of it. And later Vic said, when he was pressed on it, because he left the door open. And I think the money quote for most people, I got to find it, was about, he's got a bright future and that future may be now. So I think everybody stopped listening at that standpoint. What happened in the Dallas game was Oren started, wasn't great.
Right.
Trotter came in. And, then they went back to Burks and they were rotating. And then Oren settled down and played well. And they never went back to Trotter until the game was out of hand and they took all the starters out. So that was already in that. And I explained that yesterday. That's what's going to happen this time. Now, Burks plays poorly and Trotter's in there and Trotter plays well. They're going to stick with Trotter. That's where we are. But when he was pressed because of that, he said part of it is both those guys are on special team. So depending on the flow of the game, kind of like when Nakobe didn't play against Dallas, they had like a 7 or 8 play drive and the Eagles had the pick six, if you remember. CJ got the pick six off Cooper Rush. Brutal throw by Cooper Rush, by the way. And they were right back on the field. And they drove it again. The Cowboys drove it again for like a 9-play drive. So the defense was on the field for 15, 16 plays. And the Eagles went 3 and out on offense. So they had a bunch of plays right there in a short span. So something like that would be a good time to sub them. That's what he did. And when they came back out, it was Trotter. And then they went back to Burks, and Burks settled down, as I said, and they stuck with Burks. So, I think that's what's going to happen. The same thing. And, it's sort of up to who plays well. And they're going to go with the hot hand. And that's what they did in the Dallas game. So I don't think anything's changed other than, Vic doesn't bullshit you. And he thinks Trot's got a good future. And that's a good thing.
We'll see what they end up doing at that position, John. It's gonna be tough to replace Nakobe versus, I think the Rams you'll be all right with it because they lost Tyler Higbee now. It looks like he's gonna play.
No, he's gonna play, yeah.
Yeah, that was a weird injury though, man. He got hit in the chest and then he was spitting up blood, they said. So he was at the hospital. I was like, dang, that was odd to me. But again, I'm not a doctor, so I don't know. But you hear somebody get sent to the emergency room after spitting up blood, you wonder what's going on there. So he did say he will play, but we'll see how big of an impact he is. And they don't quite have the pass catching back like the Lions do. Now, Kyron Williams is a good player. I'm not going to negate their ability to do it, but that's typically not where the Rams butter their bread per se. So I feel okay about it for this week, but it's definitely going to be something moving forward, John. This defense is the number one defense in the NFL. We talked about it, and I think they just lost an integral piece in the Kobe Dean. So gonna have to prevail. Gonna have to be next man up mentality, Johnny Mac, on that.
Yeah, and everybody deals with it. You know, injuries abound across the NFL, starting with Detroit, and everybody's talked about how many injuries they faced and been able to persevere. Eagles have stayed very healthy. Nobody's going to feel sorry for him. I feel sorry for Nakobe, as I said, because he's having a great season, but it's what the NFL is. And, you're not going to replace him. You don't have a player as good as he is. Nobody does. That's why starters are starters.
Right.
So you don't replace people, but you need to persevere, and that's what the Eagles need to do. And they did it very well against Dallas. Now, Dallas is a bad team this year, and they were playing a backup quarterback and all that kind of stuff. But they played very well with Oren Burks and some trot mixed in. Hopefully they can do the same against the Rams, who, I don't want to dismiss them. I see a lot of people dismissing them. And that tends to, turn me back in the other direction. But
and that's why yesterday I said
I feel very comfortable about this game. I can't lie. I can't picture, Acho's there. I've been saying it all week, but he's obviously got a higher profile. And I want to pull up his tweet because he's 100% right. He basically said, the Eagles tape showed me one thing against the Rams the first time. The Rams better have gotten in the weight room.
Yeah.
I mean, they got the shit kicked out of them.
Yep.
And what? How is that? How is that going to stop?
I don't know. I agree 100%. This is why I felt so good about it on Monday morning after everything unfolded, and we knew we were playing or Tuesday morning, excuse me, after the Monday night game. I don't see it with them. I'm not saying they're not great. I think Matthew Stafford is great. I'm a big Sean McVay guy. By the way, Celia wanted me to push back on you on something. I forget what. Do you believe Sean McVay is overrated?
Yes. How can he not be? Part of it's not his fault. I mean, he's been made out. I used to say the same thing about Vic. I joked that I remember talking to Farzetta. He was the Greek god of defense. It was a joke because the Greeks are famous for the gods, and Farzetta, pick up an AJ Brown bookmark. I mean, it was a joke. Obviously, he's Italian. That's not the point. They've made Sean McVay to be out to be the godfather of modern offense in the NFL. And maybe he is, but modern offense in the NFL is a bunch of repetitive nonsense. And, Vic's history is that he has stopped Sean McVay. The Rams get very repetitive. I can predict what's going to happen. The Rams are going to look great on the first drive, and then they're going to get very repetitive. And things will settle down for the Eagles defense. If you go back to the first game, they were going right down the field, and people were going, uh-oh. And the Eagles were able to force the fumble on Kyron Williams, and they didn't even score. So it was the best case scenario. But the Rams offense looked very good, and then they get very repetitive. So, yeah, I think he's overrated, but that's not his fault. That's other people's fault who make him out to be, something.
Do you think he's a great coach? You just think he's overrated because anybody who has a cup of coffee with him gets hired?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
I do think he's a good coach.
Yeah, I mean, his resume is pretty impressive. I mean, that was Cilia's point when we were talking about this. He's like, did John say McVay's overrated? I don't see it. In 8 years or whatever he's been as a head coach, he's got a Super Bowl ring. He's been to 2 Super Bowls.
Yeah, it's got nothing to do with Sean. But yeah, well, the first he got completely shut down by Vic's defense, and Vic wasn't even in the game.
Yeah,
Bill Belichick copied it, and famously so. I've written about it many times. Bill admits it. Sean admits it. Vic, a couple weeks earlier, that's why Bill sort of like a mini version of what the Rams did because of what the Lions did against the Vikings. Now, much higher profile, but the Rams were the Rams were the most explosive team in football that year, and Vic was with the Bears and completely shut them down late in the season. They scored 7 or 10 points, and Belichick saw it and just copied it in the Super Bowl. And the Patriots completely shut the Rams down. And Vic has done that. They haven't faced each other much, but every time they have, Vic has pretty much gotten the better of them. And I expect that to continue because he's very repetitive. But so is everybody else.
Yeah, it's true. What do John, in your estimation, just to look at this from the other side of things, obviously we're an Eagles focused show where, I'm in Philadelphia, you're in South Jersey, right by the city. We are obviously a Philadelphia Eagles focused show and perspective. But if you look at this from the Rams perspective, what would they have to do to win this game? Because if you look at the first game where it really wasn't a close game, John, I mean, it was what was it, 37 to 14?
Might have been the Eagles' most impressive performance of the year.
That's what I mean. And you look at the stats. I mean, and I know stats don't tell the full story, but Matthew Stafford was 24-36 for 243 and 2 touchdowns. Kyron Williams had 72 yards and a touchdown on the ground, and Puka Nacua had 9 catches for 117 yards. Like, if I told you that, I would say, all right, that's a solid game. The game is probably pretty close. Rams offense moved the ball well. They got blown out. Like,
Yeah.
what do the Rams have to do in this game offensively to even give themselves a shot? Is it 400 passing yards here?
Well, they have to stop Saquon Barkley at all cost. After, that was the game he had 255 yards, over 300 yards from scrimmage. So he even got involved in the passing game, which he seemingly never does these days. Had almost 50 yards receiving as well. Look, that's the problem. You look at it, and they're better. I don't expect it to be that bad. They were still dealing with a bunch of injuries on the offensive line, and their offensive line is very good, and they're all back. And they were missing, I think, 2 starters in that game before they had missed even more. So they got all their guys back. Puka and Cooper Kupp were just rounding into shape, and now they're both back to where they typically are. Stafford's playing well. Kyron Williams is a good back. So they're a good team. The defensive front, maybe the best young defensive front in football, as people talked about. The secondary's better than people give them credit for. They're a good team. And they haven't lost really since they lost to the Eagles. They lost week 18, but they were playing Jimmy Garoppolo and all their backups. They haven't really lost with this group since they lost to the Eagles. But, they don't match up with the Eagles. The Vikings have a poor offensive line, at least a poor interior offensive line. And then they lost Brian O'Neill and they had lost Christian Darrisaw. They have good tackles, but they were out of the game. Actually, Darrisaw got hurt when they played the Rams the first time. They had a really crappy offensive line, and Kevin O'Connell didn't adjust, and he's got Sam Darnold back there. And big problem with Sam, holds on to the football to begin with, and he's just holding on to the footballs. That's not going to happen in this game. You got the best offensive line in football against a bunch of guys who are 280. And I don't care how athletic they are. Acho put up the one, just a bunch of stuff. The particular play he just put up was just a run, to the right. Saquon Barkley, just, 7-8 yard run, whatever it was. That the whole defensive front is 5 yards pushed off the football.
All right.
Wasn't even one of the explosive runs. Just blown off the football. How is that going to change? I mean, You got Lane Johnson at 330. You got Jordan Mailata at 380. You got Landon Dickerson at 340. You got Mekhi Becton at 360, 370. How's that going to change?
Yeah, I don't.
And you could say, well, get the lead. If the Eagles defer, that was what was going on in the first game. The Eagles always defer. They'll defer again if they win the toss. You know, if the Rams win the toss, I think they should take the football. They probably won't, but I think they should take the football. You go down and score. Maybe you have a 7-0 lead. You're able to play from the advantage, and you get the Eagles throwing the ball, and you get that pass rush going. Bottom line is the Eagles aren't going to throw the ball more than 21 times.
I know, and I don't think they're going to have to at all.
Well, no, that's the point. So it's not going to be a situation where you get 9 sacks like they were against Minnesota. And even if they, the Eagles struggled in pass protection, what are they going to give up? A 3-4 sacks in the worst case scenario, and that half of those are going to be related to Jalen hanging on to the football. The best part of the Rams is mitigated automatically. Forget about them. That defensive front is the best part of the Rams, and they're mitigated. They're screwed. I hate to put it like that, but
no, I hear you. It's that's how I see it too. I don't think you're wrong at all. I think this game just looks. I don't know. Everybody's like, oh, we're overconfident, but I just don't see the way. I think that, John, you always say it. Styles make fights in the NFL. I do not see them matching up well with the Eagles. Let's get to a couple super chats here, Johnny Mac, real quick. I'll take a few super chats in this first hour. In hour number 2, wow, big super chat there from Chris. Chris, I'll get to that in a second. Thank you, brother. Big hour 1 here, and then in hour number 2, we are going to talk to Brandon Lee Goutland. You guys obviously know our usual Wednesday guest is Mike Gill, who is in Ladyboy land or whatever we called it in Thailand. So
Thailand getting a bad rep, but hey, fix your Ladyboy problem.
No, we should have. Yeah, I should have. We got listeners over in Thailand. I shouldn't be saying that. To our listeners in Thailand, thank you, and we love you, and thanks for reaching out to Mike Gill. Let's get to a couple super chats here. Jerry Hartfield, if you're scared of the Lions, just say that, bro. John's not scared of anyone, Jerry.
I don't give a shit. Why would I be scared? Why would I? You should be scared. You're the fan. I don't give a shit who wins.
Yeah, I think that's a misconception, John, a lot of times for maybe the newer people who don't watch the show every day. Obviously, for people who've been here all the time, they know. Brian Garner, thank you, brother. $20 super chat. Look at this. I remember the Bring It Home for Jerome hype song for the Eagles in '92 before the playoffs when I was a kid. The Eagles destroyed the Saints in the wild card and got boat raced by Dallas. Normally, talent over motivation.
Oh God, yeah. I mean, give me the better players over the bulletin board material, which I think is one of the most overrated things in the NFL. I keep bringing up the Acho clip because it's Mekhi Becton just put pancaking some guy. Yeah, you could talk about. I know the Rams made a big thing about. After the Lions beat the Vikings in Week 18, Dan Campbell, when Kevin O'Connell was shaking hands, and he said, "See you in 2 weeks," and the Rams made a big thing about that. Again, the Vikings didn't say anything. They're probably like, oh, we're screwed. But yeah, motivation. Who cares if you got the better players?
Yeah,
I'm with you 100%, Brian.
Good stuff, Brian. Thank you, brother. Appreciate it, man. Appreciate all your support this week, Brian. You were in here yesterday doing the same thing. So thank you, man. Alexander Harris checks in. Like I said on Monday, it's looking like Vic is thinking about putting Trotter in over Burks, even though Oren has the experience. Burks was bad Sunday. We'll see. I mean, he did kind of open that door up a little bit more.
Look at the Dallas game. That's what you're going to see.
Yeah, I agree. Alexander, thank you, brother, for the member for 5 months. 99C Diesel, $5. Thank you, man. Have you seen the video of special teams getting hyped up before the opening kickoff versus Green Bay? Even Saquon was hyping up special teams. I did not see that video. I don't know how it applies.
Yeah, the
to,
Eagles put it up. I
I
mean,
didn't see it.
players are generally hyped up for the start of every game.
Yeah.
It becomes a bigger deal because they made a play. Like you could put up that hype. They do the same thing every day, but usually you don't force a fumble.
Right on the opening.
So you edit it and say, "Hey, we forced a fumble. Look at how hyped up we are." So I wouldn't take. It was a cool video though.
Yeah, I didn't see it. I'm gonna have to check it out after the show. And look at this. Look at this, Johnny Mac. 50 beans. Chris AM. My guy, thank you, man. That is really cool of you. All right. He says, much respect to the show. Zander and J-Mac, my favorites when it comes to Eagles news. I've been listening to J-Mac since 2015 with Mike Gill over at 97.3. John speaks so much truth, tends to always be right. Haha. All the haters can F off for real. Look at that, John.
Well,
we got people out here throwing jabs and boxing for Johnny Mac in this chat this morning. I love it.
Well, most of the stuff I say is not, it's not because I'm speculating, but it's part of it. People want, one thing I've learned is people want to be right. And, I think you brought up yesterday, like, I got to eat crow on Darnold. No, I don't. What do I care? Again, I just give my opinion. He had a great season, played really poorly cost himself a bunch of money too. I mean, when you're on, I think people don't understand, like when you're on the radio or our show every day and you talk about, you're not, you make predictions, you're not getting everything right.
No.
And by the way, your opinions evolve on certain players and certain things.
Yeah, because the games are changed, the players change, the moments change. I always say that to people. If you were up here talking football for multiple hours a day, you'd be wrong about a lot of shit too, right? I mean,
oh my God. But the stuff that, is, when I say, the Eagles, are going to put Nolan Smith on kickoff coverage. It's not because I'm guessing, but
the people will hold Saquon Barkley and Bryce Huff over your head, Johnny Mac.
Well, again, with Saquon, I argue I was 1,000% right. You were the guys, oh, you don't need a third receiver because Saquon's going to play in the slot as a receiver. Yeah. What I got wrong about Saquon Barkley is his explosiveness in the running game. As far as what would happen, wouldn't be relevant in the passing game. Yeah, I think you got to look in the mirror. But again, people forget about what they say. Remember, go back in the off season, and it's Kellen Moore's going to scheme these people open, and Kellen Moore's going to do this, and the motion.
I remember.
They've all forgotten about it.
Saquon's
you don't need to worry about the third receiver because Saquon's going to beat this guy in the passing game. They don't even use him in the passing game. He's caught, like, ever since the Rams game, he's averaged under 20 yards per game in the receiving game. They don't even use him.
No, they don't.
He's had an historic running year and deserves all the credit in the world. So is that offensive line, though. Again, I had him at 16 to 1,700 total yards. He exploded that, but it's all because of the running game, which I said would be better. And I said they would be a better finishing team. Now with Bryce Huff, he stinks. I got that wrong. But more important,
Bryce Huff was really the one, because you're right. I mean, look, people say Saquon wasn't going to be a difference maker. That's what people always say to me. But you did predict 1,800 yards total from the guy.
Yeah,
he got what,
which is ridiculous. So they hear what they want to hear. But with Bryce Huff, first of all, did I get it wrong? Yes,
everybody got it wrong.
The bigger issue, your team, your favorite team, got it wrong.
Yeah, right.
That's the bigger issue. They're the ones that paid him $51 million. Now, part of it's injuries. And he did get hurt, and that's a real injury, and he had real wrist surgery. And when he had wrist surgery, It's a big deal when you're a defensive front player because you got to use your hands. But he was not playing well before then, and Nolan Smith lapped him. That's why we're talking about it last week. Kept saying what Bryce Huff like he's a starter. He's not. He hadn't been a starter since I don't know week 6, week 7. At first it was Brandon Graham, then it was Nolan Smith taking over. Yeah, I mean, you think Howie Roseman doesn't get evaluations wrong? Guess what? He got Bryce Huff wrong.
Yeah.
Why are you giving Howie shit?
What a letdown he's been, John. Did you hear Vic Fangio yesterday about him? I mean, holy mackerel. They don't even care about him.
Alex Hunt's ahead of him now.
I mean, he's like, yeah, we like the 3-man rotation.
And part of it is, yeah, Vic just doesn't like him as a player.
Well,
so.
What are they going to try and do with him, you think? I know we shouldn't go into that because we got a playoff game coming up.
By the way, you should be very happy that because if Sean Desai was here, I hate to go pick on Sean Desai, but it's a Rams week and Sean Desai's with the Rams. So I'm sure people are going to find him in the
the revenge game.
Yeah. If Sean Desai was here, you'd probably have to play Bryce Huff. Vic is at the point of his career, and he has the reputation where it's like, I don't give a shit if you paid the guy $51 million. I'm not playing him because I think so-and-so is a better player. There are very few defensive coordinators with that kind of cachet. Most coordinators, Sean Desai, would have to play Bryce Huff.
Yeah. How about Nolan Smith finally coming along, making that whole thing a whole lot easier. So he's been amazing, Nolan Smith, John. I'm predicting big things for him in the future. And that's a guy I will eat my crow on. Early at the start of the year, I thought he was just going to be a nothing burger. Didn't look the part to me. I didn't think he was going to be able to contribute at a high level. And he has really turned the corner.
Well, I don't know how long you're going to end up. You're going to get a lot of shit wrong when it comes to evaluation.
Oh,
because
absolutely.
Everybody gets a lot of shit wrong.
Yeah, the NFL GMs get stuff wrong, and they're paid millions to do it. So I'm not upset about it. I'm just acknowledging how good Nolan Smith has been, man, because he is.
Oh, he's been tremendous.
I mean, John, he's starting to look like he could be that dominant guy. I'm not going to go, obviously, top 3, top 5 guy in the league, but I think he could have a Hassan Reddick level impact next year. I really do.
I'm not going to go that far, but he's a very good player. I think the next step is, and it might come this weekend. It might come that quickly because last weekend watching the game, the Packers were much more concerned with Josh Sweat, which makes sense. And he's still getting a lot of one-on-ones. If he keeps performing, that's going to change and people are going to start chipping him. That's the next standard. That's where you got to see when it gets to that level, how you handle that. Hassan Reddick, and I'm not talking about this Hassan Reddick today, and I think the Eagles made the right decision with the contract, the age, and all that kind of stuff. But in that year, the 2020, he had one of the best defensive years of any Eagles defender in history. So I'm not going to say he's getting to that level, but the next year, Hassan wasn't the same. He wasn't that. You can't keep that pace up. Well, some people can. The really top tier guys are TJ Watts of the world are very, very consistent from year to year. But if you're talking about Hassan Reddick 2022 heights, yeah, I'm not going that far. But Hassan Reddick 2023 wasn't Hassan Reddick 2022.
Right.
So it depends what you mean.
I think a big impact. I don't know about 18 Saturday. How many did Hassan have in 22? Was it 18?
Well, he was over 20 when you count the playoffs.
Yeah.
But the Super Bowl was, I don't want to bring up the field, but that helped.
Yeah, that was a problem, though. I mean, come on, let's call a spade a spade. That field was a problem for both pass rushers in that game. So got to prevail, but,
completely wrecked the NFC Championship game. Completely single-handedly wrecked the NFC Championship game.
Yeah, which is pretty crazy to think about. Edge rusher destroys an entire NFC title game. Good stuff, Chris A.M. Thank you, man. That's really cool of you to do that, bro. $50. We appreciate the hell out of that. Thank you, man. Mike M. Zander, the studio's coming together nicely, bro. Thank you, Mike. Put in some work this weekend. I'm happy you like it, man. I love it. I think it looks a lot better than it looked. Me and John were just talking about how much of a pain in the ass green screens are. So I'm happy I no longer have to deal with that. Maybe John will be next. Who knows? We'll talk about it. D. Hughes checks in. Fans already complaining about Sean Smith officiating this game.
I saw that. I'm like, come on.
Coaches better be talking to C.J. Gardner-Johnson and Carter a little extra this week. No foolishness.
I don't care.
Somebody already debunked it though. I saw someone put out there that we're 0-3 with him this year. We're not. We're 2-1 with him officiating this year.
Well, shockingly, people have put out. I do not care about the officials, and I'm certainly not going to complain about the officials before the game starts.
Since 22, he's officiated 3 games. All right, 22 versus Green Bay, we won. 23 versus Kansas City, we won, and then this year at Washington game. That's what people are hung up on, John. Remember, he threw C.J. Gardner-Johnson out of the
game. By the way, C.J. has since he actually helped you because C.J. seems to have matured a bit and understands his importance to the team and understands he has to do things in a different way and has verbalized that. So maybe Sean Smith helped you in the long run. Maybe a good way to look at it there. Big thanks to everybody for our super chats today. We appreciate all of you guys, man. Major support on the show. Don't forget to hit that like button for us, John. John, we set a record yesterday. Now, maybe it had something to do with me giving away stuff like hotcakes. Always does.
After the show, and I'm asking for likes, and I'll give away something else. But we had a massive like day on Birds 365 yesterday.
Well, you should always, when you're giving something away, you should always make it contingent on likes because you're going to get the likes and
likes or members or super chats, whatever the case may be. But yeah, yesterday we got 550 likes on the show. So big show yesterday, and we're up to 119 today. So hit that like button for us, guys. We appreciate you guys being here. We're going to get to our first commercial break. When we come back, we'll continue to dive into this Rams game. I am of the belief, John, before we get to our break, that the Rams have no chance at stopping our run, and because of that, might have no chance in the game. Now, maybe I'm going too far. Maybe I am overlooking a divisional round opponent, but I'm getting an early feel, John, that this game could be a little bit of a runaway because I just don't think they match up well, and we'll talk a little bit about that after the break. Big thanks to all you guys again. Let's get to that commercial break, all right? I'm going to tell you guys about the great people at BetUS before we do it. Check out the promo code. I just put it on your screen, and these guys have been sponsoring us all year long, and we can't thank them enough for being the main sponsor here on the 2-hour show today, and they'll be with us all off season long too as well. So check them out. Go use this promo code YouTube150. It gives you a huge sign-up bonus up to 150%, and then you also can get even 125% on your second and third deposit, all up to $2,000. So you're talking about, deposit $500-$600 and you can get close to $2,000 to play with here on BetUS. So go and check them out. Use the promo code YouTube150. It's betus.com.pa. That's betus.com.pa. They have the fastest payouts in the industry, 24/7 customer support, and they'll even give you your own custom account manager if you need it. All right, so go check out BetUS, and a big thanks to them for sponsoring the show today. We'll be back in 3 minutes, everybody, on Birds 365. Stay tuned. We got good stuff coming up.
Ignite your nights with free live entertainment daily, only at Live Casino and Hotel Philadelphia's Center Bar. 7 days a week, enjoy some of the region's top party bands, performers, and DJs as they take the stage in the heart of the casino action. Great cocktails, live music, and lively moments. It's all happening at Center Bar at Live Casino and Hotel Philadelphia. Visit livecasinophilly.com for more details and the complete list of upcoming events. Must be 21 or older. Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER.
The following is a real testimonial from the father of a young injured victim.
I didn't think she was going to make it.
Major Perry's daughter was the victim of a horrific accident caused by someone else's negligence.
If you don't find the right counselor, law firm that you're looking for, you will get lost in the wilderness.
Badly injured? Call the Fritz and Bianculli Law Firm at 215-458-2222 and find out why they say, "We got this."
In our hometown, we all look out for each other. We step up to keep our communities going strong. And at Independence Blue Cross, we're here to keep you going strong as the #1 health insurer in the region. No IBX is always looking out for you.
We noticed that there was mold creeping into our basement about a year and a half ago, and wanted to make sure that we were getting rid of the problem permanently. We actually reached out to several different contractors to get it resolved, and actually 2 of them recommended DryTech to us as a long-term solution. Other than the noise factor, we wouldn't even know that there was work being done on the basement level. It's really been a clean process for us.
Score and save this football season on your car insurance. Before the next game, save up to 40% on your auto insurance policy. That's right, 40% savings. Call an audible this season and contact the Del Val Insurance Group. They're an advocate for you, not an insurance company. That means they'll get you the right coverage and save you up to 40%. Call managing partners Fran or Jim of Del Val Insurance, 215-354-0122, or score and save at dvigi.com. dvigi.com.
EAGLES, Eagles.
Welcome back in, everybody, to Birds 365 here on JAKIB Sports. I'm your host, Zander Krause. Don't forget to give me a follow on X, everybody, at Real Zander. Connected with a lot of you guys over there. And John McMullen, my co-host, the #1 Eagles beat reporter in town. Go and give him a follow at JF McMullen for all your Eagles updates in real time over on X. So give us a follow there. Can't say for John, but for me, I always follow all you guys back. All right. I appreciate connecting with you guys over there. I love continuing the Eagles conversation over on X. So definitely go and follow us over there. Johnny Mac, I want to look at some of these other games in the divisional round before I get into each specific one real quick. Any game jump out to you that is the most enticing? I think there's kind of a shoe-in for maybe the game of the week here, but any game sticking out to you in this week?
Well, it's got to be better than the wild card round.
Yeah, it's got to be
honest. You would think, because the wild card round was really bad overall. Boy, I mean, Ravens Bills looks like the best game pretty significantly. I think we're going to have 2 blowouts on the NFC side, or at least 2 comfortable games. Maybe not blowouts, but 2 comfortable games. Texans are, my guess is they're going to crap the bed, but they do have some talent. We'll see if they can keep it close against the Chiefs. So I would say Ravens Bills. Yeah, I'm not expecting close games, to be honest.
You think the Lions destroy the Commanders?
Pretty much, yeah. I don't like that matchup less. I like that matchup less than I like the Rams.
Oh God.
Yeah.
Don't tell our wait, this is funny. I got to mention this, John. So yesterday we had Zander time. All right. After the show, I was giving away stuff. I was like a freaking, I don't know what the right word would be for it, but, I was giving to the people. Halpin says, J-Mac, yesterday Zander time was as stressful as watching an Eagles game. It was, Halpin. You and me both, brother. But our resident Commander fan, John, won the giveaway drawing.
Oh, nice.
So what I'm doing for
Enjoy it.
I'm ordering him some Commanders merch, all right, instead of giving him an Eagles merch, because he's a great supporter. He really is, James Jones. If he's in the chat, I think he's in the chat. I see him in the chat.
Well, and James look, they had a great season. I'm the one, because James is going to get mad at me. I'm the one who's been talking up Jaden Daniels all year. I would have taken him #1 overall. I think he's going to be a big problem in this league for a lot of years. Steps, though. This ain't the year. It's been a good run. That run is going to end in Detroit, unfortunately.
No doubt about it. Come on, Twiz. It's red, man. Come on, Twiz. All right, appreciate everybody. I'm helping again. Thanks for that super chat, man. I appreciate it. It was a lot of fun yesterday hanging out with you. Well, John, I was on till noon, man. We had a 4-hour Birds 365 yesterday. Yeah. So we were ripping it for a long time here on the show. All right, John, let's get into a little bit more of this Eagles and Rams game here. I think we've broke down a lot of the things that stick out to you. Who do you think is going to be a key player in this game? Let's go offensive side first, and I'm not going to let you say Saquon Barkley because, that's the shoe-in answer, and anybody can say that. But I feel like, John, somebody's going to have to make a play. All right, you got A.J. Brown, you got Devontae Smith, and you have Dallas Goedert, and you have Jalen Hurts. And not many of those players, especially in the first playoff game, were asked to make a big play for the team. Okay. And that's a good thing. I mean, your team is good enough where you don't have to ask 4 guys like that to make a play. I think that shows you how good you are as a squad. But I feel like one of those guys is going to have to make a play in this game. Who do you think it's going to be?
Boy, why can't we go offensive line? They're why this game is not close.
Yeah, I know.
I don't know, but they're not going to throw the football unless they have to. And by that, I mean consistently. Because, I know how people are. They've shifted gears. They are risk averse. They believe that if they don't turn the football over, they're going to win the game. And it's hard to argue with them. And that's what they're going to do against this team unless they're forced out of it. And how can they be forced out of it? Probably the only way is to Rams take the ball first, whether the Eagles defer or they win the toss and take the football, which probably won't. Then they get the ball first. They go down and score. Then you have a catastrophe, a fumble, something like that, short field. Boom, it's 14-0. Then everything's on the table. Then you need some AJ, you need some Devontae, you need some Dallas, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. You need Jalen Hurts to play better. It's probably not going to happen. So you're not going to see it. And the hope is you never have to see it. And then you go back.
I don't know. I think Josh B's right here. My guy, Josh B, winner of the starter jacket a couple last week. He says, I think this is the last week that mentality is going to work. I think he's right. I mean, if you think you're going to go.
Well, that's possible. But until it doesn't, until you're forced out of it, that's going to be the mentality. And our buddy Shield Kapati, and I know BLG put it up.
Saw this.
The Eagles game Sunday featured the least efficient passing performance by a quarterback whose team won a playoff game in the past 10 years. And guess what, guys? It wasn't even fucking close. Should it have been worse? Yeah. Should they have won by more? Yeah. If they did have a more efficient passing game, of course. But they won by double digits with the least effective passing performance. And then you got morons out there telling you it's fine. It ain't fine. It's fine because the other parts are great. The offensive line, the running game, the defense. It ain't fine, but it is what it is. And they're going to ride this until it comes off the rails. And maybe it doesn't come off the rails.
I don't get a comment. Anybody dispute a comment like this? Hip hop news. Here we go. Going again at Jalen. I mean, come on, man. We're just talking about the hip hop. The passing game is not. They don't use it much. The question is whether that's going to be a problem or not. Nobody is going at anybody.
Serious question in hip hop. What is wrong with you? Why do you feel the need to protect the quarterback at all costs? You think Sam Darnold's not getting shit on? You think Justin Herbert's not getting shit on? That's part of the gig. Nobody knows it better than Jalen Hurts. And by the way, I'm not the one who said it. Shields the one who said it. He's using advanced statistics. What? Go listen to fucking Orlovsky, who tells you he's the worst quarterback in the world, 6 weeks ago. And you want to burn him in effigy. And then he tells you, oh, he's great. Everything else is fine because he's trying to fuel engagement. Go find that idiot. I don't know what to tell you. You're going to get honesty here. The Eagles passing game stinks right now. That hasn't mattered, but it stinks right now. And it stunk for a while, by the way.
Good stuff by McMullen there. Hip hop, we appreciate you watching, brother. But he said he followed up. Why do you guys keep talking about him? He's the quarterback of the football team. What are you talking about?
Why do you talk about the quarterback of the football? Yeah, that's crazy. I just told you. You think they're talking about Darnold in Minnesota? You think they're talking about Justin and Herbert in Los Angeles? If anybody cares about the Chargers, which is a good point that they don't. But the point is, the people who follow the Chargers do. It's ridiculous. Stop it. You got to stop it.
Yes, I love to stop it. Let's go, hip hop. You earned to stop it, man. That's a badge of honor. Right
people
there.
talk about Nick Foles. Did they talk about Carson Wentz? Did they talk about Kevin Cobb back in the day? Michael Vick? You're the quarterback of the Philadelphia Eagles. You're going to get talked about. The hell?
And Jalen's a big boy. Jalen can handle it. All right. Jalen's a guy that I don't worry about at all with that stuff. We got a couple more.
Doesn't even care.
No, he doesn't care at all. James Jones, there he is. There he is, our resident Commander fan, John. How I'm going to get mad, you gave him props, respect. We won 4 games last year. Rookie came in 1 year and won 12. Snyder never did that. I'm happy. Yeah, you should be, James. I mean, really amazing season.
Oh, well, that's such a huge upgrade over Daniel Snyder. I mean, yeah. I mean, people don't like Josh Harris in this town. People love him in D.C. because he saved the Commanders. Daniel Snyder's the worst owner in professional sports. And second place wasn't close. He makes Jerry Jones look like Jeffrey Lurie. Daniel Snyder.
No doubt. James, congrats on your team. I think this might be the end, though. We'll see. D. Hughes checks in. D. Hughes, thank you, brother. Do you think they will game plan differently for Detroit and expect to throw it more, or do you expect them to ride this out no matter what? It's a good question. I would assume they're going to know they're going to have to throw in that game.
I would think so, but I mean, you can't just not use something and then say, all right, let's pick it up.
Well, they did versus Pittsburgh. That's what people are going to point to.
Well, all right. I mean, I guess that's the hope. But again, they that one thing that the Eagles, that mentality, Jalen holds on to the football too much. They're waiting for the big play down the field. They don't even do that anymore. Again, not 9 times in the last 9 games they've had a football go 20 air yards down the field. Once against Green Bay, and that was the tush push play where they're trying to catch him off guard. It was more of a trick than anything else. They're not even taking shots down the field. It's amazing with the talent they have in the passing game. It's fucking amazing. But Kellen Moore is probably going to be the head coach of the Dallas Cowboys doing nothing.
You think
it's amazing? Yeah, I do. I do think eventually, they'll talk about Dion and Jason Witten, but by the way, Dion would be great if you're an Eagles fan, because that would be a freaking disaster.
I'm so with you. I actually like Dion, but I don't think you're going to be able to bring that. And if he went and tried to get Shador, I don't know what they would try and do with him, but I don't think it would work. Maybe I'd be wrong. Dion's proven a lot of people wrong a lot of times in his life. I like Dion. I'm a Dion guy, but I don't see that in Dallas. I really don't.
Yeah. So anyway, and this is Shield. Out of 224 games, playoff games, Hurts wild card performance ranked tied for 205th in dropback success rate, a metric that measures how often a passing play produces a positive outcome for the offense. Again, that number 205 of 224. And they won the football game going away, pretty much. Every single one, no surprise. 15 examples of the 10 seasons of quarterbacks having a worse success rate. Every single one of them lost. This is a very unique team, the way they're playing right now. And they are extremely risk averse right now. Extremely, to the point where, I've been saying it all year, and even Jalen said it. It might not get you until it gets you.
Yeah.
But there's only 3 hurdles left, and they ain't losing this one.
I don't see them losing this one at all. Not even close.
And that makes it 2 hurdles. So they're embracing it, and we'll see if it works, and we'll see if it doesn't work.
Yep, no doubt about it. Good stuff there, D. Hughes. Thank you, brother. Appreciate that support. Brian Pumper checks in. I'm with you, J-Mac. Tamagotchi Hurts is horrendously bad. The Jalen Hurts muffin poppers are some sad dudes. We figured out what Tamagotchi is, all right? So yesterday he sent a super chat like this on Cilio's show when I was on. And I'm like, what the hell is Tamagotchi? You didn't know, I didn't know, and Cilio didn't know. And then somebody in the chat goes, Zander, you're too young to know what Tamagotchi is. I'm like, John didn't know and Cilio didn't know. How the hell am I too young? And then they were like, well, they're too old and you're too young. I guess they're like pets or something. They're like digital pets.
Well, yeah, I definitely don't know about digital pets. So
yeah, I think it's a toy. Yeah, that's what it is. I don't know what the frick it is, but people keep using it about Jalen.
Yeah, well, I'm definitely I'll wear that proudly. I'm too old for that.
Yeah, no idea what a Tamagotchi is. Yeah. Look, Izzy B, our resident female this morning, says, I had 5 of them. There you go. There you go. Good stuff there, Pumper. Thank you for the super chat, brother. M. Halpin, thank you again for your super chat. Honestly, Hurts plays sus this year, but he really hasn't let us down too many times over the past few years. That I certainly agree with. He doesn't give you these negative plays and these like you would never see a performance from
How many times have I complimented Jalen on his ability to make plays in big spots and pointed out that when a quarterback like Darnold or a quarterback like Herbert plays poorly, they're going to play poorly the entire game. Jalen Hurts might play poorly, might play poorly, and then break your back with a big play in the fourth quarter. How many times have I used the term unique? People don't hear that. They just don't want criticism of their quarterback. When they're successful. When they're not successful, you'd be hearing it. The floodgates would open. If they lose to the Rams, which isn't going to happen, but if they lose to the Rams and they have another passing performance like they did against Green Bay, people are going to be shitting on Jalen Hurts to no end. The same people,
including the people in here who don't want us to talk about
the same people, and saying, "What the hell went wrong with this passing game?" And they wouldn't be wrong at that point, but this is what they've decided is their best way to win, or it's their biggest opportunity to win. I don't necessarily agree with it, but it's that the horse is out of the barn. You can't put him back in. You can't just say, "Oh, we're going to wake up today and we're going to throw for 400 yards." It doesn't work that way.
Well, they have everybody they need to do it. I mean, they got a great tight end and they got 2 phenomenal.
Well, evidently they don't because they can't do it. So they don't have everybody to do it because they can't do it.
Halpin, thank you, brother. Appreciate it. Justo Munoz, he says, Jalen cares about how he is perceived. Do you remember the press conference when Jalen said to Mac, they said he can't, but is doing what he's told?
Yeah, he says it. Well, yeah, all the time. Sometimes, he said so many times he's dropped hints of, he's not happy with it either. I mean, that's what's funny about it. People shit on AJ. He says the same thing, Jalen, and he said it numerous times over the year. And some of those phrases he's used have been, eye-opening, but people quickly forget them. And that was one of those moments that he brings up, is the fact that, he's doing what he's told, and probably not thrilled with it. But when you're 15-3, nobody wants to be the guy that says we shouldn't be doing this.
I did have the other comment, of like it's going to look how Jalen Hurts wants it to look. It might not be how you want it to look, but I don't know. I mean, maybe he is okay with it.
Oh, he's not okay with it. No quarterback is. Same thing with a receiver. again, you don't want a receiver who doesn't want the football.
Yeah, right.
Whether people understand that or not, you don't want a receiver. You don't want a quarterback that doesn't want the ball in his hands and want the ability to make plays. So, yeah, he's not happy with it, but he's not going to complain about it when they're winning games. Everybody's doing their best behind the scenes to point out that, this thing's probably got to be a little bit more balanced to go where we want to go. But, I think the assumption is we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. And then it'll work or it won't work if it ever comes to that. And if it doesn't work, the hand of God is going to come down on this organization. And they're going to get shit upon like they've never been shit upon. Because people expect the Super Bowl. And if they don't deliver it and they lose in a fashion where they can't throw the football, they're going to hear about it.
Yes. And forget the outside noise. Forget me and you. Forget Birds 365. Forget Silly.
I'm not talking about me. I'm talking about
the organization, right?
Yeah.
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 I mean, you're talking about the owner. You're talking about the owner now. You're not talking about opinions of talk show. And
I'm talking about players. I'm talking about Jalen. I'm talking about AJ. Yeah. I'm talking about Devontae. Talking about everybody.
Dirty Air checks in. Dion, 100% next Cowboys coach. They send Micah to Tennessee for the 1 for his kid, or a 3-way deal where team gets Micah, Cowboys get the 1, and Tennessee gets a bunch of picks. Jerry Jones won't be able to resist it.
You're giving Jerry a lot of credit for doing an inventive thing, and he doesn't do that.
No, he's shit.
He's the most conservative. He doesn't do shit. He is right. It's one of the weirdest disconnects. People are like, "Oh, the Cowboys, they're going to do this. They don't do anything. They're the most conservative team there is." Now, will he hire him? Dude loves headlines. If he does hire him, it's for the headline. No other reason.
Yeah, well, they can't get any playoff success, so they're not one of the most watched, games.
Well, they still are. Sadly.
I mean, in the big picture of the most important football games of the year, they are obviously a very watched team.
Yeah, he loves headlines, But my assumption is that he will beg off, not show the courage of his conviction. No experience, very little experience. He'd get embarrassed as a head coach in the NFL. So would Jason Witten. And that's why I think ultimately he'll default back to Kellen Moore, which I find ironic because Kellen Moore got run out as the scapegoat in Dallas because they didn't run the ball enough.
Right.
Now he's in Philadelphia, and all they do is run the ball.
All they freaking do is run. We'll see how it ends up happening. Dirty Air, thanks for your super chat. Thanks everybody for the super chats today. Please hit that like button for us. We're up to 167. So big thanks to you guys for hitting that like button. We're going to talk to Brandon Lee Gouton, ELG, coming up soon here on Birds 365. All right, John. So you think the offense then this week going up against this Rams team are you expecting over or under 160 passing yards for Jalen Hurts?
Boy.
Not that yards tell the full story. We're talking about approach offensively.
Yeah, I mean, I guess I'm going to go over. Yeah, it's so tough to go. It's ridiculous that's the number one. Well, and it's ridiculous. It's ridiculous that I even have to think about it.
Well, I get in a fight every Friday on Cilio's show when we do our predictions because Cilio's going to Cilio, and he says Jalen Hurts will have 140 passing yards, and I'm like, "Oh, stop! You're being fucking ridiculous." And then he goes out and has 140 passing yards. I'm like, "Shit, Cilio's right."
Yeah, I mean, it's ridiculous that I even have to think about it, but you do. But I'm going to go slightly over. No, I guess. And you say to yourself, well, it just takes one big play, but they don't even go for big plays anymore. That's the crazy part.
Well, you could kind of hear it too yesterday, John, from Kellen Moore in his press conference. Obviously they admitted the offense didn't have their best game. Which why I don't understand why people care that we talk about. The whole team told you they didn't have their best game offensively. Basically,
Nick Sirianni said it right after the
right
game.
after the game. Kellen Moore said it. I mean, come on, everybody's saying it. But Kellen also then did say, didn't turn the football over, kept protected the football. It really feels like this team is drilling that into Jalen's head, like do not turn the ball over. And I think that's part of the reason there's no shots. He's not putting he's not even trying, John, on tight window throws. It feels like. Maybe that's from coaching. Maybe that's from what the team is asking.
Yeah, there's always, I say it all the time, there's always unintended consequences to everything you do. And we're seeing them. Nobody's making a big deal out of it because they're winning football games. But, the passing game is ugly right now. Hasn't mattered.
Hasn't mattered, no doubt about it, which is amazing, but it hasn't. Brian Pumper checks in. Jalen Hurts' quarterback play has at least had an educational angle, created AJ's book club that will be soon joined by Smitty, Goddard, Jahan, and Saquon. John, did you buy the book?
No, hell no. I'm not.
No, yeah. Somebody messaged me on my Twitter that they bought the book, and I'm like, oh, I did not run to buy the book.
No. Yeah.
Anybody in the chat, buy the book.
Good for we went up that author. Good for him. I mean, AJ gave him some book sales. So, but hey, I think it was much ado about nothing, as is typical, and good for him. Got a few book sales.
Johnny, defense is number one defense overall in the NFL right now. You lost Nakobe Dean, the first injury besides Brandon Graham. And I'm not trying to downplay Brandon Graham, but this is the first, Eagles have been lucky this year where guys have gone out and we've lost guys, but we haven't had any season enders. Like, and I think I consider that lucky in the NFL. You see guys drop like flies and in some games. And I kind of call that Green Bay game a body bag game. Green Bay was dropping like flies in that.
Yeah.
And the Eagles are lucky in that front. Well, you lose Nakobe and he's going to be out for the playoffs, obviously. You think that has a big impact? Could this defense regress a little bit, or you think it's fair to expect a number one overall defense?
No, I think they'll regress a little bit, but again, you can't replace them, and at least, and the upside to Brandon getting hurt was Nolan Smith, running with his opportunity. Can Trotter do that? That's why I think so many people are so excited about Trotter, because they haven't seen him. They've seen Burks. We've seen Burks for years. There's a limited upside. So the unknown, and obviously the name and his father, and there's a lot of assumptions there. Does he have a Nolan Smith-like upside? Well, one guy was a first-round pick, one guy was a fifth-round pick. So probably not. You never say never, but yeah, I don't expect anybody playing the rest of the way to play at the level that Nakobe Dean was playing.
No, definitely not. Definitely not. You think the Rams are equipped to take advantage of that matchup? Like when I look at the Lions, I'm like, boy, they're going to scheme that. Ben Johnson's going to attack that all game. I don't see that as much with the Lions because I don't think they have as good of a player to do it with, but they could still do it. What do you think? Sean McVay's plan will be for that.
Hey, he's the best offensive coach in the history of the world. He should be able to take advantage of it. No, they don't really have that player. Kyron Williams is a very good player. I would say more of a Saquon Barkley type receiver. And by that, I mean, dump off. The guys who are going to take advantage, Gibbs is going to take advantage, whether it's option routes, angle routes, wheel routes. Down the field, he can take advantage of a linebacker. Austin Eckler, for some reason, Washington does pull off the upset. He's that type of guy. He's been doing it for a long time. Can run option routes, run angle routes, run wheel routes. Aaron Jones would have been that guy, not with the way Sam Darnold was playing, but that's out the window. So, and then if you look at, Baltimore, Buffalo, Kansas City, they all do it pretty well. So I don't think it'll matter much in this game, but I think it could matter down the road.
Yep, no doubt about it. We'll see. We'll see what happens this week.
By the way, Nakobe can't match up with Jahmyr Gibbs either. Nobody.
No, he
nobody,
can't. But
nobody on planet Earth can.
It's better though. All right, it's a little bit better.
Yeah.
What do you think? I do think Vic's going to go to more dime looks on passing downs. Do you agree with that?
Yeah, it wouldn't surprise me. One thing about Vic is he will pull stuff out that you have not seen. He did it against New Orleans early in the year with the 6-man fronts. He will do some different things, and yeah, I mean, he will look at things differently than people on the outside look at it and say, well, next man up, who's the next linebacker? Is it Oren Burks or Jeremiah Trotter? And all of a sudden it might be Sidney Brown, especially if he's worried about the passing game. Again, probably not this week, but that might be something to put in your back pocket for Gibbs,
Right.
Have a safety try to deal with him.
Yep, no doubt. Look at this, John. Chris AM again, man. It was a $50 super chat. Chris, thank you, brother. That's double 50s today from Chris AM. Thank you for the support. He says, cheers, Johnny Mac and Zander. Let's go, baby. Let's get this W, take it all the way, finish the race. And as my man J Mac would say, love all the guests. God bless you all. Everyone blessed and joyful New Year. Go Birds, fly, Eagles, fly. Chris, that's really cool of you, man. Two big super chats today for you. We appreciate that for sure, man. That's really cool, John. That somebody spends their hard-earned money like that on here.
It is really cool. And speaking of great guests, we got one right now. Yeah. He just popped in.
Yes, we did. I'm going to do a quick Bet US live read, and then we're going to bring up our man, BLG, Brandon Lee Gouton from Bleeding Green Nation. Chris, thank you, brother. Appreciate it, man. Appreciate it. Means a lot to us. Let's get to our real quick. Let me tell you guys about the great people at Bet US, and then we'll get Brandon Lee Gouton from Bleeding Green Nation up here on Birds 365. You can see the promo code I put on your screen. I just told you guys they have been sponsoring the 2-hour show all year long, so we appreciate their support and them sponsoring the show here. You can see the promo code on your screen. It's YouTube 150. Gives you 150% sign-up bonus on your very first deposit, and you get 125% on your second and third deposit, all up to $2,000. So deposit less and bet with more at BetUS. Go to betus.com.pa. That's betus.com.pa and use the promo code YouTube150. All right, let's go to our man now. Brandon Lee Gouton from Bleeding Green Nation joining us here on Birds 365. BLJ, welcome to the show, man. How you doing on this Wednesday as we inch closer to the divisional round weekend?
Doing good, guys. Excited for another playoff game.
Yeah, BLG. We were talking. Now, I saw you. We're getting shit upon because we're pointing out that the passing game was not great against Green Bay, and I saw you retweet Shield's latest piece. Our buddy Shield Kapadia from The Ringer. Everybody can check it out. TheRinger.com. Shield points out, if you look at the advanced numbers, least efficient passing performance by a quarterback whose team won a playoff game in the past 10 years. That's a little bit frightening. But what's more frightening to me, BLG, is I think the number is last 9 games, there's been 9 throws of 20 or more air yards down the field. I think this mentality, you always have this thought process that, and it was that way for a while, Jalen Hurts holds onto the ball too much. He's always looking for the big play. They don't even look for the big play anymore. They took one shot. It was the big tush push. They are so risk averse, and yet they're winning. They only have 3 hurdles left. Can this go the distance? Can you play like this and win a Super Bowl?
It's hard. It's not impossible. It's not like, the history tells us that, it's not the most common way it is done and will likely be done. But I do think this defense is so good that them alone can kind of carry this team. Again, that's not the most likely thing. There's probably going to be a game in here at some point. And to be clear too, even though I have my reservations, and I think people should have their reservations about this passing attack, it's not like I think Jalen Hurts can't do it. We've seen him do it. He is capable of doing it. It is possible. It's not like the ceiling doesn't exist. It's just, will we see it? I don't feel as confident in saying we will definitely see it, but I do think it is possible.
BLG, I couldn't agree more. We've seen it. We know he's capable of it. Where's the disconnect? What is it? Just the philosophy that they don't have a desire to pass it? Is it Kellen Moore who's calling up shitty plays? You see a lot of that talk on social.
Kellen Moore.
Like what is it though, BLG?
Next head coach of the Dallas Cowboys.
I agree with you though that Jalen can do it, but they're not doing it, nor are they even asking him to do it. Where's the disconnect? What's the reason for it? Maybe they just believe they could run their way to the Super Bowl.
I think they know there's going to be a game here at some point, like probably Detroit. Let's be honest. If they get there, and if that's the situation where they're probably going to have to be less conservative than they've been. But I think to this point, and in that matchup specifically against the Packers, and as they've felt for a good portion of this year, I think they identified correctly so that like this is our formula for victory. As long as we don't turn it over, then we can win this way. It's not the most pretty way to win, but we feel really good about our chances being able to do that. So I think a large part of it is just the approach of what this offense is right now. But it's not as simple as that in terms of there's throws there there's plays to be made that Jalen is not making, and he is certainly part of the equation of why this passing offense doesn't look like ideally you'd want it to be. And let's be clear here too. I'm not even saying I don't think anyone's saying he needs to go out and throw for 400 yards, even 300 yards. Like the gap between where they are right now against the Packers, where they had 120 net yards or so, somewhere around there, and 300, that's a really, it was 121. That's a really big gap between that and 300. Can you get to 220? That would be a big upgrade.
Well, that's, is it even fair to Jalen Hurts to say, all right, you got to deal with this week, whether it's Detroit or the Super Bowl. I thought maybe they would have to throw the football a little bit to beat Green Bay. Didn't work out that way because the defense was so good. Is it fair to say, all right, you don't use it, you lose it. That's a cliche for a reason. Or we're going to dust you off for this game because we need you for this game. Could he do it? Of course. We've seen him do it, as you guys pointed out. Is it fair to assume, all right, just sit in the corner, and if we need it, we'll break the glass in case of emergency?
I think that's a really relevant point, John. I think that's part of the equation here is that you're not practicing it. So then that does limit maybe how good you are at it. And I think that's part of the problem as well. I think part of what's frustrating about the conversation to me when it comes to this passing attack is that we were having these conversations in the past. This is not exclusive to this year. So these issues are predating Kellen Moore. So as much as we can say Kellen Moore, and I do believe he's part of the problem here as well, how many different offensive coordinators are we going to have to see with this and see the same issues to be it's constantly the offensive coordinator. That's the only problem. That's where I kind of get frustrated.
Yeah, no doubt about it. BLG, I think this game this weekend, though, are the Rams going to be able to stop the run? This game might be one of the games where you really don't need to get the passing game going because I just don't think the Rams have the guys up front to slow down this offensive line and Saquon Barkley. How do you see this upcoming game from an Eagles offensive perspective?
Yeah, the Rams defense has played better, certainly, since the last time they played the Eagles. If we exclude the Week 18 game there where they were obviously resting their starters at that point, the Rams are only allowing 15 points per game, offensive points per game, and then 100.5 rushing yards per game. So, they've been better. Now, you look at the offensive they played, and specifically the running backs they played. Saquon Barkley's a lot better. The Eagles' offensive line is a lot better, I think, than the teams that they've played during that stretch. And you look at even what the Eagles did last week against the Packers run defense. That was pretty good for Saquon still to have 25 for 119. Easily could have been more, obviously, before he slides at the end there. I am not putting the Rams have earned no benefit of the doubt when it comes to stopping Saquon Barkley, and not even just as a runner, but he had the 4 receptions for 47 yards in that game as well for 302 total yards from scrimmage. I think they defense has been playing better. That's interesting to me, but I just don't think there's any reason to believe they're going to slow down Saquon until we see it happen.
Yeah. Well, I think styles make fights, and I think this is just, that Rams defensive front is tremendously athletic, tremendously talented. You saw what they were able to do against a bad offensive line, against a quarterback that holds on to the football too much on Monday night. I don't think they got bigger since they last played the Eagles. And you look at that Eagles offensive front and just how they dominated the first time. I mean, they're pushing guys. Acho's been putting up clips this morning. They're pushing guys 5 yards off the ball. You know, if they can pin their ears back and pass rush, maybe you got something. But Jared Verse, Braden Fisk, Kobe Turner, I mean, you got 335-pound Landon Dickerson, 380-pound Jordan Mailata. I'm going to go under 255, but I'm going to go over 150. I don't know how they stopped the Eagles' offensive line. It's not about Saquon. Saquon's great. He's going to finish those runs. When you're getting pushed 5 yards off the ball, I don't see any way. And I don't often do this, especially the Rams are playing very well. You pointed out some of the numbers, BLG. I don't see how they win this game unless the Eagles turn it over 4 times. And they don't throw the ball to turn it over.
Yeah, the Rams, too, like they were healthy for the most part in that match, especially their defense was healthy in that first matchup against the Eagles. It's not like they have, guys back that they didn't have before there. And actually, I'm kind of curious to see where Byron Young is at. I saw he got banged up on Monday night. Maybe he'll be okay, but we'll have to see that on the injury report. Not the Eagles' Byron Young, obviously, the Rams' Byron Young.
Yeah.
I agree. I don't really see the reason to think that the Rams are going to come into here and all of a sudden, bully the Eagles offensive line. Although again, yes, they have a good front, especially when it comes more so to rushing the passer there. But I don't see that happening. I see the Eagles, with a very favorable matchup in front of them here.
BLG, you mentioned the defense and how good they've been, and that's part of the reason. Obviously, this team is 15-3. Well, they lost a big piece last week, and it's the first. I said to John, I mean, we've been lucky with injuries. I know obviously Brandon Graham is a big component as well, but we've had injuries this year, but we haven't had anything more season-ending. Like you're watching guys in Detroit, they drop and they're done for the year, and you're like, shit, man. Haven't had that in Philly. Well, you lost a guy now in Kobe Dean. How big of an impact do you see that being on this defense moving forward? And what do you like them to do to kind of try and make up for the loss in Kobe Dean here moving forward?
Yeah, obviously a really big loss. He's been playing well. I mean, he was awesome specifically in that Rams game earlier this season where he had team high 8 total tackles, 5 solo tackles, 1 sack, 2 TFLs, and he had the fumble recovery in that game as well. So to be missing him is a really big deal. And Warren Burks is as good probably of a backup linebacker as you're realistically going to have and has experience. But, we saw there's limitations there in terms of, can be had a little bit in coverage. The tackling, there's missed tackles. He accidentally tackled Zach Bond at one point to allow a big Packers first down, like 1st and 20. So, there's struggles there. Really interested to see if Vic Fangio is true to his word and we end up seeing the Eagles rotate, Burks and Jeremiah Trotter there and how that goes. But yeah, it's a big loss.
Yeah, Vic left that door open, and fans, as you can imagine, are pretty excited by it. They've seen Oren Burks. We've seen Oren Burks not only in Philadelphia but in San Francisco in the Super Bowl, Green Bay. It's enough of a sample size. There's limitations, but I'm with you. Very good backup linebacker. Very good third linebacker, but he's a very good third linebacker, and there's some issues if he's out there. If Vic left that door open with Trotter, I think the money quote was, I think he's got a big future, something like that, paraphrasing. Any chance he rolls out Jeremiah Trotter, play number 1? Did you buy that? Or is it going to be more like Dallas? Because people forget in the Dallas game, Nakobe missed with an abdomen. Warren Burks started. They had the long drive, the pick 6, and then they were right back on the field. They had another long drive, the Cowboys, and then he rotated in Trotter. And then Burks got back in and settled down a little bit and played well, pretty much finished until they took out all the starters because it was a blowout by that point. Then Trotter came back in. Do you think there's a legitimate shot? He just goes, we're going to play Trotter like they played Nolan Smith basically when Brandon Graham got hurt and Bryce Hupp got hurt.
I'm expecting more of the rotation, I guess, that we saw against the Cowboys. And maybe you adjust from there. If one of the two guys is playing clearly better than the other, then you can kind of, take it from there. But I do think it's worth, at the very least, getting a look at Jeremiah Trotter Jr., especially because you just mentioned Nolan Smith, and it's not an apples-to-apples comparison. Nolan's in his second year and certainly has had a lot more time to kind of build up to what he is currently. But sometimes you have to play the young guys to see if they can actually play, and they can get better over the course of a certain time frame. So, whereas, Ern Borks is pretty much going to be, he is what he is mostly at this point in his career. So I do think it makes sense to play both of them, especially maybe if you want Burks from the start, more stability, not having a rookie kind of feel like they're in over their head a little bit or a little bit too amped up, to be able to ease them in there a little bit more, especially
it's a good point because Sean McVay as well is going to,
yes,
he's very good scripter. Right. It gets repetitive from there, as I point out, but
and then maybe
early in the game
has their feet under them too a little bit by the time, Trotter's in the game as well.
Yeah.
BLG, I think we all agree here that it seems like we all agree. I don't want to speak for you, but that the Eagles have a way major advantage in the trenches in this game. And I think that could be the reason that they win pretty easily and have I think, a favorable divisional matchup here. But the Rams still do have Matthew Stafford, and he's a Hall of Fame caliber level quarterback, a guy that's capable of throwing for 350, 400 yards and putting up 30-plus points. Now, he's got a tough task against this defense, but how do you what is the plan for Stafford in your opinion? If you're the Birds defense, how do you try and get him off his spot and make him make a mistake?
Yeah, I mean, he's been playing well for a bit now. His last 8 starts, 13 touchdown passes, just 1 interception in that stretch. So I think, I was of the mind, and I was in the minority on this, at least according to the polls I saw. I thought the Eagles, it'd be better for them to see the Vikings, in part because of Sam Darnold and really not believing in him. So I'll take the W on that one, although obviously not the situation in front of them. So, I think it's tough. Stafford can get the ball out quick, so it's not as simple as him, sitting in the pocket and the Eagles being able to get to him. And we've seen the Eagles defense when they've had some struggles this year, dating all the way back to, week 4 in Tampa when Baker Mayfield was getting rid of the ball like lightning fast. That has challenged this defense at times. But, ultimately, I think the Rams are kind of just going to get theirs to some extent offensively. I mean, that's basically just what happens when Puka Nacua plays, especially. Like, you're not slowing that guy down. He's going to get a ton of targets. He's going to get production. It's more about just, I think cleaning up some of the issues we saw from last week against the Packers, where this team, I think uncharacteristically so, he had a lot of missed tackles. And if they can rally and kind of limit these explosive plays, I think ultimately, if you're going to make the Rams go on these long drives all game long, I don't think that's going to be able to hold up.
You mentioned Puka. He is really an impressive player. I think a lot of people look at this team and say, Puka Nacua has become the guy.
Yeah.
He's more of the volume guy. Plays wide receiver like he's a fullback. I mean, how many times you see wide receivers, BLG, and like they're a yard behind the sticks and they're getting stopped, bang. Puka's getting that first down every time. He carries people. Pretty amazing player. But then I start to think about when my biggest concern is Puka Nacua. That's pretty good in the divisional round. Is there any way, because I want to be fair to the Rams, other than the turnovers, is there any way you can envision a path to victory for the Los Angeles Rams other than multiple turnovers, which can sink any team?
Yeah, I think, obviously the turnovers, I think it looks like, and part of that, Jalen Hurts, if he's holding on to the ball, as long as he did really against the Packers, which was a long time, if you give that Rams pass rush a chance to get to him, just like they did to Sam Darnold on Monday night, I think that's not looking great for them at that point. And then, if this defense maybe falls off a little bit with no Nakobe Dean, I don't think it's going to happen. I don't think the whole defense is shot now because you lose one player, but certainly it could be worse off without him. And if the Rams are able to kind of put together that, like Panthers game plan of just going to, and what the Packers are really trying to do at times, try to like just run the ball control, eat up clock, shorten the game. You're looking at something like that. Maybe Nick Sirianni makes some fourth down decisions that don't pay off or whatever. One game, anything can happen, but yeah, I think it's certainly, if you play this game like 100 times, I think the Eagles are winning like, 90 something times.
Yeah, I agree with that. For sure. Coming into this game, BLG, I lost my train of thought. John, you have a follow up there? I was in space. I blanked on where
That's
I was
right.
going.
Yeah, I'll pick you up. When you talk about Nakobe Dean, you talk Nick Morrow, by the way, back. We should mention our old friend Nick Morrow on the practice squad, give you a little bit more depth. You are a play away from being Doug Peterson used to always talk about the day BLG. It's not injuries, it's multiple injuries at the same position. God forbid what happens, not even a serious injury like Nakobe, sprained ankle by Zach Bond. Then where are you? Then, that tends to get the position. And you can't legislate injuries. I'm not talking about that, but how equipped do you think this team is depth-wise defensively? As good as they've been, how is that health, held up? Because we've seen Detroit, multiple waves of injuries. They've been able to persevere. Do you see that same ability to at least make some plays? That's what sort of Detroit does. Maybe it's not great at all times, but they have the ability to make the big play, whether it's Kirby Joseph or Jack Campbell forcing a fumble. They always seem to make a big play. You think the depth is there for Big Fangio?
I think sometimes, yeah, we've seen Isaiah Rodgers have to come in just like he did against the Packers and be able to come up with a big play. Man. Yeah, again, especially for like the standards of your third cornerback, like you're on the outside, like it's pretty good. Like there's certainly we've seen a lot of Eagles starting quarterbacks be a lot worse than Isaiah Rodgers is off the bench. So in certain areas, even a guy like Christian McMullen, who's struggled at times, he's had to play, but he had that big play against the Ravens. I think their depth, Oren Burks again, for what he is, like been pretty good relative to expectation. Nicholas Morrow had struggles last year. Obviously, not ideal.
Had some good games, though. He had some good games.
For sure. He had that 3-sack game at one point.
Very inconsistent.
Yes.
Up, way down.
But if you have to survive a game with him, can you? Like probably, he started in the NFL before. You can probably get through the game. Obviously not ideal if he's starting the rest of the season. But yeah, I do think they have enough depth here.
BLJ, I remembered my train of thought here. Saquon Barkley. All right, 255 last time he played the Rams. I'm not going to go there, but I'll set the over-under at, I'm going to go a little above 150, maybe go 160 over-under yards for Saquon Barkley. Are you going to take the over or the under on 160 for Saquon?
I'll take the over. Again, like
Woo, baby.
I have no reason to believe the Rams are going to slow him down until I see it happen. I do think if I'm the Rams, like, you have to sell out to stop him. Literally make anyone else beat you. If Jalen Hurts has an awesome game, AJ Brown's an awesome great game, you can live with that if you're the Rams. You cannot live with like Saquon Barkley doing what he did to you in the previous game. So if I'm the Rams, I'm trying to stop it, but I just think that's easier said than done.
Yeah, I don't know how they stop it. That's the problem. It's just such a physical mismatch up front. With how big and how powerful. That's what Emmanuel Acho tweeted this. They better be in the weight room. What can you do in the weight room for 8 weeks to match these guys? That's the point. I don't know how they do it, but the Rams are playing well. So maybe I'm not giving them enough credit. Outside the box, more on that defense, BLG. And more about what's coming up than I guess now, because I like Kyron Williams, but he's more of a, conventional back. He's not going to kill you out of the backfield as a receiver, more of a dump-off guy. Can catch the football, but if you start to envision Jahmyr Gibbs running option routes, angle routes, wheel routes, and no Nakobe Dean, you think there's any out-of-the-box maybe big nickels, Sidney Brown, type thinking for Vic Fangio, because he's, you go all the way back. I brought up the New Orleans game. It's been so long, but at the time, New Orleans was scoring 40 points a game, and everybody was like, Clint Kubiak's the greatest offensive coordinator in history. They run the ball. They're phenomenal. And that the stretch zone, and Vic rolled out that 6-man front, and that was that. And nobody was thinking about that. You think he might roll out some different looks to deal with Nakobe's injury?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's entirely possible. I think it's almost like some of that. I'm wondering like how much he's saving for like the potential Lions matchup. And because I just think, just how the Eagles have even played offensively, with how conservative they've been. I'm like, I don't want to say all of it's to not show anything, but I feel like part of it is that. Like, I don't think they're just, they're not trying to go fully all out to this stage. And so therefore I do think that he has to have some tricks up his sleeve, because again, we've seen that at times. I just think they haven't really, fully needed to do that so much to this point, but I do think that could be coming. Yes.
How would you power rank BLG these last? I'm going to give Eagles Lions. You got the Eagles or the Lions power ranked at the top here, because I do think that Lions team is going to be a tough matchup, and it feels like a collision course to me. Feels like it's inevitable. I don't want to go ahead yet, obviously, because we got a game to play, but it certainly feels like we're going to face that team. How do you think the Eagles match up with them?
Yeah, I mean, I think the Lions are obviously really good. You look at what they've been able to do this year, and even like one of their losses, the one against the Bucs early in the season, they went like 1-7 in the red zone. Like they outgained that team by like 200 yards or something. Like they're so good. Now, I think when you also look at your schedule, a lot of these games have been close too. It's not like they're just always, especially against the better teams, the playoff caliber teams. So it's not just like they're a juggernaut and they can't possibly be defeated. But game being in Detroit, that team kind of just, I think, having a little bit of like a 2017 Eagles feel to them, and that they have all these injuries, and they kind of just have this like mentality of they're just so locked in. I really admire the way Dan Campbell is aggressive and at least tries to give his team an edge. I think that's a really big deal, and certainly I think going to be an interesting matchup against Nick Sirianni, who I think has been a little bit too conservative at times this year when it comes to game management stuff. So I lean towards Lions in that, but I think it's going to be a really awesome game if we get it.
At Brandon Gout, make sure you follow BLG on the X platform. You can read them at bleedinggreennation.com. They do a tremendous job there. Go there every morning to get your latest dose of Eagles news. I guess I'll end it with Nick Sirianni, because there's so many people out there who've said, I've heard it so many times, and I don't want to, the culprits, the typical national guys. How can you trust this head coach? And to a certain degree, the quarterback. At what point does that dissipate? I mean, at what point does this guy get credit for? This is a pretty good run of Eagles football. Nick Sirianni not part of any of it. Why do you think there's this, just his personality? Why do you think there's this disconnect?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest things, give Nick credit for is something he talked about, like doubling down on, his core values, and connectivity being one of them. And you look at how this team, like, the players are always looking genuinely very happy for each other, and they seem to have a really great chemistry. And Tim McManus from ESPN has a great piece up on this today, and Jordan Mailata, some of the quotes in there talking about Nick and his relationship with the players. And I think some of that gets a little overstated from the standpoint, I think in a lot of cases, the players set the culture in a big part, and they deserve credit for that too. But certainly I think Nick is doing his part in that equation to foster good vibes, a good culture here. So I certainly will give him credit for that. But again, I do think, when he comes down to like these pressure cooker kind of game management moments, like that's still, I don't trust him in that regard yet. I still think there are questions there to be answered. And even some of the things we saw in the Packers game, which, weren't the biggest issue, but like, I didn't love punting in plus territory from the Packers plus.
I never loved punting. I always go, I'm Dan Campbell. I am Dan Campbell, man. I'm always going for it. Always. Especially with Jake Elliott struggling.
That as well. And also like the mentality that they have, like, oh, we're tough and everything, but then they play so conservatively with their style, and it kind of doesn't like match up with that attitude. And that's something, again, I admire about the Lions. It's like Dan Campbell will go for it on a fourth down, even when the numbers say don't do it. But like it's the mindset of like, hey, we're gonna go, all out to win this game. And the players, I think, love that and respect that, and it gives that team an edge. Like
I'm with you.
Mentally,
I think the Eagles used to have that edge. They no longer have that edge, and I think it could be a problem. I'm with you there. Quick follow up with the coaching staff. Kellen Moore, obviously, I don't know if anybody would be concerned if he leaves for Dallas and be the head coach because of what has transpired on offense, but then we'd be back wherever the Eagles go, whether they get upset this weekend or win the Super Bowl. You're talking about Jalen Hurts with another offensive coordinator. Kellen Moore leaves. What's your worry scale, 1 to 10?
I mean, from the Cowboys' perspective, look, Kellen Moore got great performances out of Dak Prescott. He could go back there and that could happen again. So I would not, even though Eagles fans aren't loving Kellen Moore right now, and maybe it's just not a fit, for him and Jalen Hurts, but I will tell you, certainly it is a fit with him and Dak Prescott based on the results we've seen in the past, even though obviously they decided to move on from Kellen Moore. So I do think that's a concern from that standpoint. I don't know, though, like what Kellen Moore is as a head coach. I kind of don't really see him from what I know with limited sample that I get to see, like as a head coach kind of figure. He's like a smaller guy. He's like kind of like a dorky kind of guy.
He looks more like a coordinator.
Kind of like that goofier kind of. And I don't know. Maybe that doesn't matter. Maybe he is a great leader. I have no idea how to forecast that. But certainly, exactly. So I don't know how that plays there. And as from the Eagles' perspective, I mean, it's not ideal when you have to keep turning over the offensive coordinator spot and you're changing it every year. But I always say too, like part of that's just the reality of the league, where I think the longest tenured OC in the NFL, if I'm not mistaken, from like
Howie brought that up in the offseason.
Yeah.
It's like, if you're successful, you're going to lose guys. Get over it.
And then if you're not, then you fire them. So there's really no stability here.
Yeah.
All right, BLG, this organization has signaled Super Bowl or bust. Give me the biggest reason that the Philadelphia Eagles will win the Super Bowl. And if they do not win, give me the biggest reason the Philadelphia Eagles will not win the Super Bowl.
All right, I'll start with not, so I can end on the positive.
Right,
not is the passing game, obviously, like just the limitations there. And you get into a matchup against a team that's able to just, put up a ton of points, even though the Eagles have a really good defense. And maybe you just don't have enough firepower or just execute. You have the firepower, they have the talent, but maybe you just don't have the passing game clicking enough to really be where you need to be. And we're all sitting here after the season's over being like, we were talking about the passing game all year not being good enough, and then it was ultimately their downfall. That is absolutely possible. The reason they're going to win the Super Bowl, if you're looking for that, I mean, this defense, again, I think is so good that unit pretty much alone, as long as the offense does something and isn't a total disaster, basically is what they were in the Packers game. I do think the defense can be so good that the offense can be carried along by that unit.
I agree.
And Big Fangio, we trust BLG. What an amazing turnaround for that defense. But to your Kellen Moore point too, it's amazing. Kellen Moore was a great, and I mean great, college quarterback. You just don't see it. It's like, how was this guy a quarterback? But he set NCAA records. But head coaching is about leadership. And we'll see how it works out. But anyway, BLG at Brandon Galton, bleedinggreennation.com. Make sure you read the site. We always enjoy it when you drop by on the show. You can change, but he's going to give us a quick prediction.
I'm going to say Eagles win this game. I'm going to go 27-18.
Ooh, I like that score.
All right, than I thought you'd go.
Yeah,
but we'll see. I'm not high on the LA Rams, in case you can't tell.
I'm high on Stafford. I just don't know how much he's going to do in this game. Yeah.
I'm like Slay with Stafford. I love the guy. Tremendous quarterback.
You don't think he's good for 18 points?
No, but I think the Eagles might Yeah, it's similar to the last game. What was it, 37-20? I think Saquon might, I think they might break in the second half.
Yeah, I agree. BLG, thanks for joining the show today, man. Great stuff as always by you. Make sure you guys check him out at Brandon Gouton on his X platform and at Bleeding Green Nation, the Best Eagles website. BLG, thanks for doing it, man. We'll talk to you again next week.
Thanks buddy.
There's BLG joining the show here on Birds 365. Good stuff from BLG. Johnny Mac. Everybody's seeing this game the same way, it seems, John. This is a trend.
Yeah, that's always scares me, but
yeah,
I just don't see it from the.
I don't either. I don't know how are you going to stop Saquon? And no, forget Saquon. How are you going to stop the Eagles' offensive line? How are you going to move them where you want to move them in order to slow down the running game?
Well, that's my whole. I can't see how they match up with the Eagles' offensive line. I can't see. The only way they could get an advantage is, but it's 3rd and long all the time. And again, how is that going to develop? How are those? You're not gonna lose yardage on first down if you're running the football because they're not big enough, they're not strong enough to hold up at the point of attack. So you're talking about penalties. Then you're back into the Sean Smith category. But I'm talking about false starts and things like that, but you're playing at home. Yeah, I just don't see a path for the Rams.
I don't either. I really don't either. And I can't go too far ahead, John, but I am so freaking juiced up for.
You can do it. The Eagles can't do it. The Eagles will take it seriously. But yeah, I'm already on to. I'm on to Detroit. I got my quality control guys looking at Detroit.
Yeah,
I don't even worry about the Rams.
That should be a good matchup. That Eagles Detroit. I'm surprised you don't think the Commanders will put up a better fight against Detroit. No.
They will be overwhelmed.
Yeah,
especially in that building. I don't know if a lot of Eagles fans have been there, but that building is a beast. It is, every bit the home field advantage the Eagles have, and maybe more because of the noise and the indoor nature. It is raucous.
Yeah.
It's certainly going to be tough to deal with a rookie quarterback.
Yep. Drakeford says, looking past your opponents. Drakeford, they are not our opponents. They're the Eagles' opponents, my guy.
I'm allowed to do it. They can't do it.
I'm my opponent. You got to correct yourself there.
I'm not playing.
I'm my opponent. My opponent every day.
I'm not playing.
Delivering the goods.
Because I get that a lot from fans all the time. Oh, you super. I don't give a shit. I'm not superstitious. I just give you my opinion. I don't see it. I'm not worried about putting a hex on the Eagles or this nonsense. They're a better team, and styles make fights, and their offensive line is going to beat the you-know-what out of the Rams' defensive front. That's it. That's what it comes down to me. It's what happened in the first game. It's what's going to happen in the second game. You can't fix that if you're the Rams. You cannot fix that.
Right. Look at this chat here. Lou, I love you. Lou is one of our great members and a winner. One of our giveaway winners in the past, but Saquon Barkley, 199, Jalen Hurts, 250 passing yards, AJ, 110, and Smitty, 90. Lou.
Come on, dude.
Lou. Come on, Lou.
Do you ever do the math on these things when you go with these crazy?
Well, last time Jalen passed against this team, what was it, like 180, and AJ had like 110 of it, I think.
Well,
yeah, 179 right and AJ
we got 400. What about this team thinks you're going to get 450 yards of total offense? Yeah. Again, I guess it's possible. He's done it in the past, but I don't see that happening. Not this year. We're talking about previous years, not this year. They don't even try at this point to throw the ball down the field, as we've talked about, which is bizarre to me, but that's where we are.
All right, John, what's on the Eagles agenda today, man? Last couple minutes of the show here. What's on the Eagles agenda? and then we'll get your final thoughts. Let you get out of here.
Nick Sirianni's going to talk at about noon. Then we got the big break. Practice not till 3:35 maybe.
Jalen too? Does Jalen talk today?
He is not on the schedule, but he's most likely gonna talk today, but not official. Probably during locker room. So locker room's not open till like 5:00, 4:55. So it's gonna be a long day.
There you go, Johnny Mac. Good stuff, man. Your final thoughts on today's show? I thought we broke it down pretty good again for everybody. We'll have a good show again tomorrow and Friday. Still got 2 days left here to break this sucker down. Feels like a Birds win early, but we will continue to talk about it.
Yeah, I tipped my hand too quickly on this one. Very rarely, but yeah, I'm very confident that we're going to have an Eagles-Lions NFC Championship game.
Yeah, a lot of people got a little juiced up because the Rams looked pretty good versus the Vikings, but just completely different teams, John. Completely different teams.
Yeah. Vikings, poor offensive line, injuries. Their best offensive lineman's out. Eagles' best offensive line in football. So can't take advantage of the Eagles' offensive line like they were able to do. And credit to the Rams because they played very well. And they've been playing very well. But, again, Jared Verse, Kobe Turner, Braden Fisk, all undersized, tremendously undersized. And they got to deal with some grown men, as they say, on the Eagles' offensive front.
No doubt about it. Johnny Mac, great show, brother. We will talk to you tomorrow on Birds 365. I got to set something straight with our viewers, all right, after a brief edition of Zander time today. No, we're not going 2 hours today. We got a brief edition, but I'll do that. John, thanks for doing it, brother. We appreciate it as always, and we'll talk to you tomorrow on Birds 365.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Johnny Mac. There's John McMullen joining us here on Birds 365, the best Eagles reporter in the business. You can't tell me otherwise. You can't tell me otherwise. All right, here's what I want to tell everybody real quick, all right? We're not doing any giveaways today because I'm limited on what I have left. Now, I finally heard back from my connection, all right? And I'm hoping to be able to acquire more things for a Super Bowl push to have giveaways for the people, okay? I have giveaways for the people. I have to go into acquisition mode. I will have a legend giveaway. All right. We'll have a legend giveaway on Friday. All right. JAKIB Legends. So we got 20 of them or 25 of them or somewhere in that range. We got a new one today, Chris AM. So Chris, thanks for becoming a legend member and for your big super chats today. Holy shit. We got another one. Chris AM, dude, you are. I got to do something for Chris AM. This is crazy. Chris AM, I wish I read it to J-Mac. Sorry, brother. Major love, man. That's really cool of you, bro. That's $350 super chats today, and he became a legend member today. I mean, dude, thank you, Zander J-Mac. Love what you did with the winter coat giveaway. Your parents, your pops should be so proud. They taught you well. Love all the giveaways you do. Keep it going, and if y'all can, Please try not cussing so much. Can't stand that crap. You guys not silly. You're right. Sometimes I cuss a little bit, Chris AM, and I'll try and rein it in. But I'm always going to keep it real with you, So if one slips, I apologize, but I do appreciate your support, man. That's love, man. That's really cool of you to do that, Chris AM. 3 super chats and a legend member. So look at that. Appreciate you guys, man. Appreciate you guys. Let me read a couple chats here. James Jones, our commander winner yesterday. We appreciate that. Philly Don calling me out. Brief my ass. Yeah, Philly Don. I'm not good at keeping stuff brief. I'm not good at keeping things brief. But no, I'll tell you why, Philly Don. I have to keep it brief. Yesterday I went till noon, and then I had to produce on the fly between 12 and 1:30 a bunch of clips and things of that nature, and prepare for Cilio's show. And then Cilio's 2 to 6. And when that happens, I don't have time to get to the post office to ship out this stuff. So I still have a bunch of stuff to ship out. So I gotta carve out an hour and a half here to organize. I think I have 8 things to ship out. So 8 things to ship out. So I got to organize, collect everything, get the addresses, go to the post office, and send everything out. So that's what I'm doing today. So I'm not going to be on too long today, but I do appreciate your guys' support. KCA is like, I'm out of here. If you're not giving away anything, I'm out. That's fine, KCA. I appreciate you, bro. All right. Thanks, everybody, for a great show today. Big thanks to Chris AM, the viewer of the day today. Big thanks to you, brother. Izzy B says she loves story time. I love story time too. Yesterday was some fun stories. I told you guys what happens on Zander time stays on Zander time. You can't be dropping those stories everywhere. All right. So big thanks to you guys for sticking in here. All right. Big thanks to you guys for sticking in here. Look at Ray. Ray, stop begging for freebies. Buy some gear. Ray, cheer up, big guy. Cheer up. You're in our chat every day and you're always shitting on us. Cheer up, big guy. Or just watch another show. I mean, come on. Comes in here every day to drop some hate. All right. Ray, cheer up, big brother. Cheer up. All right. Love you guys. See you next time, everybody, on Birds 365.
You've been listening to Birds 365, the destination for the passionate Eagles football fan who bleeds green. If it's Eagles football, we're talking about it. Debate inside the locker room and guests that are some of the greatest football minds from around the region. We hope you enjoyed the show. We know we had a blast. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll be back soon. But in the meantime, hook up with us on social media at JAKIB Sports. See you next time on Birds 365.